trying to achieve today?
Well, it's a year to go before Brexit, before we leave the European Union, and I'm visiting all 4 nations of the United Kingdom today because the deal we want to strike for our future partnership with the European Union is one that will be good for all parts of the United Kingdom. But I'm also listening to people. I've met mothers and young toddlers today. I've visited a business already. I'll be seeing farmers and others and hearing from them what they want from Brexit. And actually, if you think about the children I've seen here at this school, it's about their future. And we want to ensure that we get the deal that's right for the whole of the United Kingdom because there's a bright future out there for us. We want to grasp the opportunities that Brexit provides and ensure we strengthen the bonds of this, the most successful union in the world.
We've been hearing from voters too on the BBC. A group of voters in Coventry told us this week, they felt they'd been made big promises in Brexit about the NHS and about immigration. And I think we could feel this frustration from people that nothing has changed yet. And it might be another few years, quite a long time, before they see any real difference. What do you say to them?
Well, look, we've spent 40 years as member of the European Union. So over those years, there's lots of complex interactions that have been developed. As we leave the European Union, the key thing is to make sure we do that smoothly, in a way that gives people confidence for the future, but that we maintain the good trade links with the EU, because that's about people's jobs here. It's about the children's futures here in the UK. But what we can also do as we leave the EU is to grasp the opportunities around the west of the world as well. And we will be introducing our own. We'll be taking back control of our borders, introducing our own immigration rules. We'll be taking back control of our money. We won't be spending vast sums of money every year to the EU, and that will enable us to spend on priorities like the NHS and schools. But I've already announced this week, I'm proud that we've been putting extra money at my premiership, extra money into the NHS. And I've also announced that what we'll be doing is, rather than this annual top-ups of the NHS, we're going to look for a long-term plan for the NHS, because that's about people's confidence for the future too.
And we'll come on to that in a second, but do you understand why some people look at what's happening and are frustrated that they don't feel things are happening now? And it's not until the end of 2020 that we will be completely out of the European Union, because there is a transition period that business wanted for all sorts of reasons. But what do you say to our viewers, some of whom are frustrated that nothing seems to be changing yet?
Well, I understand, because I understand why people voted for leaving the European Union. For a lot of people, immigration, taking back control of our borders was part of it, taking back control of our laws, taking back control of our money. This was all part of why people voted to leave the European Union, and we're going to deliver on that. But we need to make sure that we do it in the way that is best for the United Kingdom, that's best for people's jobs, for people's futures. And that means a smooth process.
So it means people having to be patient.
It means a smooth process. But what I can say is we will leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019. That's in a year's time. There will be a period of implementation as we put in place the changes necessary for our future relationship, for our future economic partnership particularly. But what is important is that gives certainty to business, it gives certainty to people about what the arrangements are going to be as we move to that brighter future.
Now, Brexit included a big promise on the NHS. You're now making a big promise on the NHS. How will that be paid for? Will it come from a Brexit dividend?
Well, first of all, what I'm clear about is we do want a multi-year funding settlement for the NHS and, as I say, a long-term plan for the NHS so that the NHS can have a greater certainty looking ahead to the future and can make plans. But some reform will be needed as well.
Yes, how will it be paid for?
Yes, it will be partly about money, but we'll be doing that. We'll take our balanced approach, as we have done already. And since November, we've already announced a further £10 billion going into the NHS. Our balanced approach of dealing with the economy, of dealing with our debt, of putting money into our public services while we ensure that we're helping to keep taxes low as possible for families.
But you've made a big promise on the NHS. Now, some of your colleagues believe the extra cash could come from the so-called Brexit dividend. Do you believe there will be a Brexit dividend? Or might there have to be tax rises for the NHS? That's what some people are calling for.
Well, what we're going to do on the NHS is we're going to work with clinicians, with NHS leaders, with others to look at what the plan for the NHS on a longer term should be. We want to provide a multi-year funding settlement, but as we go through that, we'll do that as part of our normal processes. Once again, taking that balanced approach to how we deal with this. Now, you ask about money from the European Union. Of course, when we leave the European Union, we're no longer going to be spending vast sums of money year in and year out, sending that money to the European Union. So there will be money available here in the UK for us to spend on our priorities like the NHS and schools.
So do you believe there will be a Brexit dividend? Would you call it that?
Well, look, there's going to be money that otherwise we would have been sending to the European Union that we're going to be able to spend on priorities in the UK.
And would you rule out a tax rise for the NHS?
We're going to look at a multi-year funding settlement. We're going to ensure that as we do that, we continue to take a balanced approach to our economy. That's what's enabled us to put money already into the NHS. We're already committed to spending extra sums of money on the NHS.
So I know you're not ruling out a tax rise potentially.
We will, as part of our normal processes, we will look at the funding, but we've got to look at the long-term plan. You don't say, this is what we're going to spend. We say, actually, let's look at that long-term plan. We're already putting extra money into the NHS. Let's look at what is needed for that multi-year funding settlement.
Just finally, do you think Brexit will be worth it?
I think there are real opportunities for the United Kingdom. I think there's a bright future out there. And yes, I think Brexit is going to deliver a country. It will be different, but I think there are real opportunities for us as an independent nation for the future.
If you believe it will be worth it, then do you feel you've changed your mind? Because in the referendum, you'd said very clearly the sky wouldn't fall in if we left, but you did campaign for Remain. You did campaign to stay. Have you changed your mind?
Yes, I campaigned for Remain, but as I said at the time, it was a very balanced decision, and I said, some were predicting great problems if people voted for Brexit. I said the sky won't fall in. It will be different, and it will be different. Now, what I'm charged with as Prime Minister is delivering on that Brexit vote. We will leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019, in a year's time, but also ensuring that as we do so, we take the opportunities that will become available to us. I think there are real opportunities. I've visited a business in Scotland this morning that, yes, it trades with, it exports to the European Union, but it also exports to countries around the rest of the world, to Japan, to China. Those are opportunities that we can build on for our future prosperity. Why is that important? It's because it's about jobs and prosperity here in the UK.
Are all the complexities and difficulties of this process ever frustrating? Because as you always say, there are many other things that you want to do. Health reform, housing reform. Does Brexit sometimes feel like it gets in the way of what you really care about?
Yeah, Brexit is important and we're committed to delivering on it, but it's not getting in the way of the government doing other things too. I put a real intense focus on housing. That's why we're making £44 billion available in relation to housing, why we're giving councils opportunities to build council houses again, putting money into affordable homes, why the stamp duty cut that went through in the autumn budget. This has had an impact on first-time buyers. We've seen the number of first-time buyers higher in the last year than it has been higher recently than it has been for 10 or 11 years. These are making real changes to people's lives. It's why we're putting the review in on tertiary education, to ensure every young person gets the education that meets their needs. Why we make sure technical education can be as valued as a university education. All these are now the long-term plan for the NHS. All of these are what the government is doing on key domestic issues. And at the same time, we're going to deliver the right Brexit for Britain and the right Brexit for our future.
Just a few things to do then, Prime Minister. Thank you very much.